Hi, this is Rob Chadwick with ADL. I'm just doing this as just kind of a recording so that I can look back and see this in other times. I've been working recently a lot on the ADL Sandboxes, terrain renderer, and also some of the atmospherics and such. So this is just a quick informal demo of the current dev work. Let's see. So I'm standing on the terrain. This is the same terrain we've been using the whole time, except what we're doing now is much more sophisticated near-field rendering. The near-field rendering used to be very, very, very basic and looked pretty poor. If I look down at my feet here, you can see that there's actually some decent vegetation and such. And here's kind of a medium field, normal mapped rock. And if I look over here, you can actually see our current mix map is really not very good, right? So like there's grass where there shouldn't be, but the rock coming up to that looks pretty nice. We're still doing the exact same distant rendering, which is just a straight aerial photography shot mapped onto the terrain, which works out better than you would think. Obviously here you can see a little bit of sky bloom as well. Let me go to edit and then select scene. I'll show you how that works. Let's see, properties. So this just matches the sun, and I can raise that sun up, bring it down. Obviously it's a little bit red for noontime, but it's perfect for kind of a sunset. Where was it before? 1.6, I think. Okay. So just like before, you know, that works exactly as expected. I can even sunsets pretty nicely, actually. One thing that you'll notice there is that you're not seeing the skybox. In this case, I'm just using a kind of linear gradient that is created by the same fog color that gives us the atmospherics. So this kind of atmosphere you see way off in the distance is the same thing that's creating this sky. That's nice because they align pretty well. Obviously, the object shaders all integrate the same scattering so that these things sort of, the bloom occludes properly. I won't mess with that too much for now, but this can be set up to make a lot of different scenes that look pretty good. You'll notice on the side I've just categorized some of the properties a little bit. There's a whole bunch of additional properties here that weren't here before, mainly related to atmospherics. For instance, atmosphere density, right? This is not fog. The fog in this setup is actually range-based, and it kind of comes up from the ground and falls off. This is just how thick the air is. Normally, I wouldn't expect people to mess with this beyond the defaults, which I think are appropriate, but you can if you want to. So what was I going to do here? Oh, let's just zoom out. Let me select none. Right, and I'll just zoom out so we get a better sense of this landscape. Right, so right about here we are pretty close to kind of a walking height. We might be about 2 meters up, a little bit high. Let me back off. You'll actually see as we get right about here, the near field texture is completely gone now, and now we're just seeing sort of the medium field. The medium field texture and the near field texture are identical. They're just at different scaling values, so that it doesn't look like mush from any particular place. So here's a little bit of dirt and gravel and sticks, and as I back it up, it just looks like this. You'll see that this rock looks pretty good. If I back up just a little bit more, you'll start to see the kind of closer detail on the rock fade out right there. See it fading? And that leaves us behind with just the higher level rock. Here we are now looking down this ridge line up into the sunset, and this still looks pretty nice. If I keep backing off, and I've got to back off pretty significantly here, so I'm really rolling the mouse wheel, we begin to see this medium-term render, and in this particular shot, the medium-term render, medium field render, oh, you can see little tiles popping in and out as the terrain engine reses down, is pretty far out. I think we do the medium field out to 1,500 meters. But if I just keep going, you will eventually see the ridge line right where we started, which is still kind of in the center of my screen. That will eventually fade into just the kind of original background image, which is some aerial photography. So right about here, I mean, you can barely tell the difference, but at this point we've faded that patch of grass we were just standing on all the way into the far field lowest level of detail texture, which is just the aerial photography. And there's a little tile just decided to kind of res down a little bit. Here you can see in the foreground the results of having a sort of less than ideal mix map for our texture splats here. We have like grass on one side and rock on the other, which really isn't ideal. What is kind of cool here is that you can see the sunset, obviously. Let me flip over into fly mode by going to camera, default cameras, fly, and let's begin a flight through here. We're just got to move it. There we go. Now we're moving it to 228 miles an hour, and we'll fly up into the sunset here. You can see here actually the textures I'm using for the near field really don't quite match the aerial photography. The grass is a little too green and the rock is a little too brown. It's too saturated. That's really just an art problem, and I'm still doing programmer art here, so I'm just knocking in whatever textures I can find on Google image search. But so here we're just flying up the valley. Let me start going a little bit faster here. Flying up the valley, which is pretty cool. And yeah, there you have it. So yeah, the ridgeline here looks pretty decent. I wish I had a before and after so I could show you kind of what's new, which is why I'm making this one. But so that's it. That is the update to the terrain renderer.